to another episode of Smart People Travel Wise, a platform where we talk all things about travel. I'm your host, Tenny Samaki, on this award-winning podcast coming to you from Starbucks. Not too far from my hometown of Woodside, Queens, New York. Yeah, I'm here in Starbucks only because my internet's down and I really needed a frappuccino on this Tuesday afternoon. It's cooled down in New York. I believe it's about 81 degrees and it's not as humid. The heat wave is turning down a bit here in New York City. We have a great episode today. And before we get started, I'd like everyone to please like us on Facebook and YouTube. And if you're tuning in on PHLV radio, make sure you download the app on all iOS and Android phones. And you can also catch and listen to our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Fire. Make sure if you're tuning in live, please hashtag live. And if you are watching on replay, hashtag replay. Make sure you tell us where you're coming from so we can acknowledge all of you. So it's a not so humid day here, Tuesday afternoon here in New York, and it's summer and there's a lot of travel trends that are circling around. And my guest today is someone who's been in the travel industry for a very long time. He's had a multifaceted career in the industry, ranging from corporate and leisure travel, as well as being a supplier in the industry. Back in 2017, he was honored by ASTA. If you don't know what ASTA is, it's an acronym for American Society of Travel Advisors, which I'm proud to be a member of recently. And I'm proud to say that I will be in San Francisco next month for the conference. Well, he won an award as a Young Professional of the Year back in 2017. Currently, he is the Director of Sales in the North Region for Exotica, a tour company that offers private small group tours hosted by local guides with more than 300 itineraries in over 60 destinations worldwide. He's a traveler at heart, just like myself, and has a passion of meeting people and learning new cultures. I'm the same way, and making the world a much more inclusive place for everyone. Please smash those heart buttons and let's welcome Jeff Howard to our podcast. Hey, Jeff, how's it going?
Hey, Jeannie, how are you? Good, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, I've been wanting to have you since maybe last week. Only because, it's a Filipino radio station and I wanted to have somebody, a Filipino in the industry who could talk more about the travel industry in itself. And I'm going to ask you this because, most Filipinos are in the healthcare industry. I'm wondering, Why did you not go into that industry and choose business, especially travel?
Well, my parents did not. First of all, my mom is a director of nursing for a facility out in New Jersey. So, there's definitely that connection, but they never pressured me to go into nursing or in the healthcare industry. And I always wanted to come to the business side of things, whether it be, at first I wanted to be in advertising or marketing, and I ended up in travel. So I guess that's close enough, right?
I agree too. I think travel is kind of a calling. I feel like it's a calling for me to start something I'm passionate about. I've been an avid traveler since I was a kid. My parents loved traveling and fortunately they were able to afford because my mom was a nurse. And my dad worked in Wall Street. He was a CPA, had a successful career in Wall Street for Goldman Sachs, and then became a controller as he got older until he passed. So he had to retire. Unfortunately, he passed away about 15, 16 years ago. But if you are around, he'd be so proud of me that I became a businesswoman and is trying to kind of be gracefully from the education sector.
Yep. There you go.
But I want to ask you, Jeff, how did
Sure.
you get into the travel industry?
Actually, by accident. I graduated college. Like I said, I wanted to be in marketing or advertising, and my mom and my former boss had a mutual friend that connected me. Um, they needed a sales coordinator. I worked for a hotel company, so I handled the European market for that as a sales coordinator. And at first, it was supposed to be a temp job, like covering somebody who was going on maternity leave. And then after a month, they actually offered me a full time position. And I fell in love with the travel industry and never looked back.
And how long have you been in the industry for?
Right now is my 11 years in the industry. So, yeah, time passes by.
11 years. And, the travel industry had its challenges during the pandemic. And I want to know what challenges did you face during the pandemic in the industry?
Yeah, no, like everybody else, the pandemic, COVID-19 was such a huge wall that got put up overnight for the travel industry. So I was like everybody else, I was not immune to losing my job. So I did lose my job. I was working for a all-inclusive company during that time. I lost my job, and I was unemployed for a couple of months, and then I ended up becoming an account manager for a tiny startup called Amazon, actually.
Oh, so small, such a small company.
Exactly. And then Exotica came a calling a couple of months later, and when you leave when you're in the travel industry, you leave, but you end up coming back because it's such a great industry to be in. And then from the industry side, hearing and seeing from my travel advisor friends and colleagues, it was tough for them as well, dealing with cancellations, dealing with rebooking, dealing with long lines and long wait times due to customer support. But that's everywhere. Supply chain issues as well. So it was just a hard time for the travel industry. But now we're coming back stronger than ever, if not going back and looking into a brighter future for 2022, 23, and onwards.
I agree. I think the travel industry is back. It's going to be stronger than ever. I mean, people are just dying to get out of the house, to travel anywhere. I think they're pretty much sick of domestic travel. I know I am.
Yes, exactly. Let the borders be open.
I know. I mean, I think also one of the hottest trends right now is revenge travel, and I think
Yes.
just people, no matter how much they have in their bank account, they just want to go away and enjoy, whether it's by themselves, with their families, with their loved ones, whatever. They just want to get out and just explore and see the world. That's what I did this year. I recently went to Italy. It was my first solo travel experience because at 42 years old, my mom still thinks I'm 18 and I'm gonna get kidnapped.
Isn't that usually the case with moms? They will forever look at you as their child and want to protect you. So yeah.
I know, and I'm the bunso, so the youngest one
Yeah.
always was like, "Oh no, you can't. You're not allowed to go anywhere." Also, "Oh no,
Yeah,
no, you're
yeah.
not allowed to get married yet."
Oh no.
But I want to ask you, Jeff, being in the travel industry, of course, you have a love for travel. I want to ask you,
Yep.
tell me your top 3 destinations that you've been to that you probably think it's like one of the best places you've ever been to.
Oh yeah, no. I think when I started in the industry, you get to go to different places. You get to meet different people. Your bucket list doesn't get shorter; it actually only gets longer, right? But during my travels, it's hard. This is a great question. One of them would definitely be Hawaii. Hawaii has been one of my favorite places that I've been to, and been coming back to for years. Hawaii has that magic that I don't know, when they say the mana of Hawaii, it actually is true. You feel closer to the earth, you feel closer to Mother Nature. Um, that allows you to become one with what you're living with the environment. So that's definitely one. The other one is I have to give props to our hometown, New York City. So
Yes.
there's no energy like it anywhere around the US or even around the world. I've been to a lot of cities in the US, and there's nothing that compares to New York City from the energy, from the food, the culture. Like, where else can you have, a Malaysian restaurant right next to an Italian restaurant, right next to, a Portuguese restaurant, all in the same
Oh,
block?
yes.
So, and then I think the last one is Egypt. Egypt, I went to for with Exotica Travel back in March of this year, 2022, and my CEO was making fun of me because he was like, Jeff only says wow everywhere. He looks left and right and says wow. And how can you not? Like, how can you not marvel in terms of the different things that you see from the pyramids of Giza to, the Karnak temple to the Nile River and like the history that's behind it and the way that they were able to build that 4,000 years ago. So I have to give props. And then honorable mention, I have to say the Philippines. I just have to put it out there. How can you not love the Philippines, from the food, the culture, everywhere I go? I just came back from Dallas this past weekend, and one of the things that I wanted to do was actually go to a Filipino restaurant when I was there. So like, even I go travel, Filipino food and Filipino culture always comes back with me and I bring it with me.
And I agree with the Philippines because it is definitely more fun there. And
Yes.
I remember telling even Alvin and some of my Filipino friends, I was like, Philippines has to be marketed just the way Thailand is and Japan is because I say like my non-Filipino friends who love the beaches and whenever wherever they've traveled to Asia, the one thing they always say is, "Oh my gosh, I can't communicate with these people in English." I was like, "Well, if you go to the Philippines, that's
Yeah.
not even a problem."
That is a fact. Yeah, English is a national language out there, so people, you know, learn it in school. So
Yes.
if yeah, so if they want to learn, if they want to be able to communicate with the locals as well as the culture and the food, and to learn more about it, go to the Philippines. I'll be more than happy to help out and facilitate that as well. I think I know a few travel advisors that can specialize in the Philippines.
Oh, I know some, and I hope to be one of them. I know my mom even said, like, you're a travel advisor, and what countries are you focusing on? I said, oh, mom, I'm focusing on Italy right now because we've been there. I've been there 3 times. I studied
Mhm,
Italian,
mhm.
and she's just like, why aren't you not? Why aren't you not promoting Philippines travel?
Yeah,
I was
right.
like, well, I was like, that's a good question, and
Right.
that's
Yeah.
actually
No.
going to be one of my goals too. Yeah.
There you go.
And I want to brush up on when you mentioned about Egypt and the word wows, because I always
Hmm.
say wow when I go to the Met, when I go to the Egyptian civilization
Hmm.
portion of the Met. And that's also been on my bucket list too. I love one of my favorite places to study in social studies was Egypt because of the pyramids, because of the
Hmm.
hieroglyphics, and I
Yeah.
my neighbor's Egyptian. No, my neighbor's not Egyptian. My former neighbor was Egyptian too, and one of my good friends in high school is Egyptian too. So um, I know. I always say I always marvel on like just the history of
Hmm.
Egypt, and that's still I'm hoping I could go to Egypt before I'm 50 or until like hopefully there's no more political turmoil around that.
Hmm. No, Egypt is such a safe place to travel when you're there, and you can definitely do it with Exotica. So with our product, you can actually go to Egypt for 9 days, 8 nights out there, with the flight coming in from New York, the tour, as well as a 4 or 5 star property starting at 1699. So that's definitely doable. Lifetime experiences that you thought would be out of reach can now easily be accessible by going through um, using through exotica.com or booking with your travel advisor.
That's great to know. Okay, everyone who's listening, if Egypt is on your bucket list, book through Jeff and Exotica. There's a great package deal if
Yes.
get your credit card ready or start saving for next year or 2024.
Exactly. Or talk to your favorite travel advisor, your preferred travel advisor. They'd be more than happy to help you out as well.
Start talking about travel trends of the summer because I was reading entrepreneur.com. That's just probably one of my favorite websites nowadays as what is this aspiring entrepreneur in the travel industry. And I read 5 travel trends, and 5 of the trends that they wrote about was family vacations, bucket list destinations, impact tourism, back to Europe, because I think it's a good time to go to Europe with the euro being down. That's kind of why I went to Italy, and I regret going in April because the euro keeps going down. And then also wellness travel. We're gonna first tap in family vacations, or nowadays they're calling it generational, I should say, family trips.
Yep.
And as a travel advisor, or I say director of sales, what do you recommend for family travel? What does Exotica have to offer for saving? What's one of your popular family trips?
There's a lot of places, but one of the places that I would recommend for travel, for like family multi-generational vacation or travel, would be South Africa. Like going to the Kruger National Park is a great experience to see the big 5, seeing the elephants, the lions, and the tigers. It's such a great opportunity for you with your kids as well as your grandparents to bond about seeing those and being in a different location, being in an exotic location, and having that shared moment in time. Like, you can talk about it. I talk to people that have been on vacation for years, and one thing that always resonates with them is the trips that they spent with their family, with their loved ones, and that's one of the things that memory goes with them for decades, not just years. This goes outside of Exotica, but I would say cruises are a definite helpful travel, family multi-generational travel as well. If you're in New York City, you can just go to Pier 88, hop on a cruise. You don't even need a flight to go for it, especially with the gas prices right now, as well as the airline fees that's going. Cruises are definitely another option for you and your clients, as well as a traveler.
Now, I've never been on a cruise, but that's on my bucket list. And I think becoming a travel advisor, I see someone in my fellow travel advisors talking about cruises. I'm like, I feel left out. But it was nice to know during my research. I think I was researching cruise. I didn't know that you could take a cruise from New York, or I would say New Jersey, by the port in Bayonne to Bermuda. And I've been to Bermuda. I've only been to Bermuda for 2 days, but I think it was amazing to know that I can go there without having to fly. I could just take the path, take Uber to the port, and then enjoy a cruise to Bermuda, which, by the way, there's no such thing as the Bermuda Triangle, as I learned.
There you go.
And it's a good thing
something
that
we learn more.
Yeah, we learn. That's something I learned it when I went to Bermuda, and it's a good thing that you tapped into South Africa, because I think that's a lot on people's bucket list. And I think one of the reasons that families might be weary is the long flight, the expenses. But how would you tackle that? Like, how would you tackle to families and say, you know what, don't worry about the price. It's all about the unforgettable memories that you will create for your families.
Exactly. No, that's a great question to ask as well. It definitely is a longer flight than what you're used to. Coming in from New York, going to California might be a 4.5, 5-hour flight. So and then anything longer than that might be tough. If you're used to going to the Philippines, you're used to doing a long haul flight, so like a South Africa trip might not be out of the ordinary for you. But yeah, no, like if you go through Exotica, if you book your flights or your trip with Exotica, dealing with a travel advisor through the website directly, you can actually everything that you see there. The price includes the flight, the tours, as well as the transfers and the tour guide. The only thing the air the flight comes from different cities, so it's not just New York cities but major gateway cities in the United States and Canada. So whether it be New York, Boston, LA, San Francisco, Vegas, Chicago, Dallas, Houston, anywhere around the US, you will have that option with the price that involves everything that I've said and a great memory to have. From there, you also have different hotel options from 3-star, 4-star, and 5-star properties. So it all depends on your price range and what you want to experience from being closer to the park or closer to the city or a little bit out in the outskirts of the city. We have that options for you. And dealing with a travel advisor, that definitely will help, and they'll be able to guide you in terms of what and where you'll be able to go and what you should see.
That's why I say it's important for families or just saying travelers in general that they hire a travel advisor rather than trying to book on their own or depend on Expedia or those online booking sites. No offense, but if you really want a memorable trip, you must hire a travel advisor to do all the planning for you, so that you can enjoy it for the. It's something that families and friends can remember for a lifetime. Now we're gonna go down to number two, which is something. My list is pretty much more than 10 places. It's probably about, I think, 100 is bucket list destinations. And you mentioned about like your list just keeps growing and growing and growing. I know my list is, I don't know, I probably want to go to, I think I figured out that I want to do at least one thing in all the countries in the world. But I want to ask you, Jeff, what are, I know, what are some of the popular bucket list destinations Exotica has to offer? I'm going to start with, I know this is probably in many people's itineraries. I'm going to start with Japan. I'm saying because a lot of people, I haven't been to Japan other than the airport yet, and that's been a long bucket list. Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto has been on my bucket list forever. I want to see what Exotica has to offer for anyone who's interested in going to Japan.
Oh, Japan is definitely one of our more popular destinations as well. Japan is a little bit different than our regular tours. Japan for us is a self-guided tour, but it will have you have all your information once you get to the destination. The train pass, the bullet train, so you get to experience the bullet train yourself. You're not just in a bus sitting for a few hours, but you're actually experiencing what how Japanese people and the culture travel using the bullet train and whatnot. You start off with the flights. Once you get there, you transfer to your hotel. You get to experience Tokyo first, and then on your way out to Kyoto, and you get to experience the traditional Japanese cultures out there and whatnot. So it's a great experience to have. I myself have not been able to do it, so I'm hoping in the fall or early next year. Fingers crossed for that. And then other destinations are with Exotica is definitely Peru. Being able to go to Cusco, and then go into the Sacred Valley to Machu Picchu. That is such a bucket list must for 2022 from what we're seeing. Ecuador, the Galapagos, we combine them into one trip, as well as Egypt, going back again to Egypt, as well as Greece and Portugal to round out our around the world.
That's great. And we're going to brush up on Europe in a bit. Portugal is on my bucket list as well. I've been to Greece, and I'm not too far from Astoria, Queens, where they have the largest Greek community outside of Greece. I think it's even larger than Athens in itself, but we'll touch up on that in a bit. But I'm going to segue into impact tourism, which is something that I
Hmm.
wasn't familiar with. But I know 2 weeks ago I was speaking with a couple. They're based in Hawaii, and then they talked about in Hawaii, impact tourism is actually something that's trending. And I think they had mentioned like Costa Rica and stuff. Like I believe Hawaii and Costa Rica are probably
Hmm.
two of the popular destinations when it comes to impact tourism. Um, do you know anything about impact tourism and how and what
Yeah,
Exotica has to offer?
yeah. No, with impact tourism, Costa Rica, they want to lead the world in terms of making the lowest impact in terms of carbon footprint as well as renewable energy. Um, I know the Philippines is into it as well, making sure that um, we leave a short, a small carbon footprint. When we closed Boracay, the Philippines, they made sure that when Boracay opened, like the fisheries are back. They're not, from overfishing, from seeing the environmental impact of it. So that's definitely one. With Exotica, we make sure that we deal with local hosts, local vendors, and partners and suppliers that one make sure that they are not just doing it for the money, that they're actually taking care of the local environment and local um, destinations that they're in because this is their livelihood. In Egypt, I'm going back to Egypt. We we make sure that the animals that are there are protected, that are taken care of, especially with the camels, the horses, and whatnot, making sure that they're not just being abused. They're not being abused for the tourists' sake, that they are actually being well fed, and taken care of. So that's definitely some. And then going back to Costa Rica, we have a great partner out there. It's a self-drive if you want, or if you're not, we also have the tour where you can be on a bus and be with a tour guide. So there's a lot of options with Exotica as well.
It's great to hear. I know you're talking about Egypt a lot. That I'm just like, okay, all right, let's by 45, I better go to Egypt
Yeah,
for,
we
for
have to make
plenty
that
of
happen.
for plenty of reasons other than the pyramids.
Exactly, exactly. We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
That was another one that's trending for the summer is European travel back to Europe. I know,
Mhm.
especially in the East Coast, that's one of the most popular destinations. I mean, I've been to Europe so many times since I was 12 years old, and I think. And that's also where my specialty. That's what I'm trying to. That's where my niche is related to mostly of Italy. Obviously, I said it
Mhm.
because I love the culture, the language, the food, and tell us more about your European destinations. Let's start with Italy because I know that you have the most packages there, and that's why I was drawn to your company for the first. I said, "Oh no! I gotta go with Exotica because look what they offer
Yeah.
their Italian packages."
No, our Italian packages are great. It ranges from 7 days all the way out to 30 days, depending on how many places and countries you want to see. From We always start in Rome, when we you can always go up to Venice, and then go down to Sorrento and all that stuff. You can even do a multi-country trip, bring it up to Croatia as well as Greece. So there's a lot of options depending on how many days you want to be there. And one thing I love about Italy is, I mean, the food. You can never go wrong with the food, the wine, but also like the history, where especially in Rome, when you go left and you go right, you'll always see something about history, and something always happened in that particular spot at any given point in time, and how they were able to preserve is mind blowing. um so you can never, again, you can this is a very, I use this word a lot, you can never go wrong with that, because like you can never go wrong going from one place to another, especially with Italy, from you know the canals to the food to the olive fields, as well as the castles that are out there, I guess, like the wineries, I should say. And those things are parts of an Exotica tour.
I think
So
when
that's
you,
one.
yes, that's one. And I have to add on to Rome. I remember when I went there the second time, and my sister was complaining. She was like, "Oh, I don't like Rome. It's dirty, this and that." And then when she stepped into ancient Rome, she was like, "Oh God, this is
Hmm.
beautiful." You know, I think one
Yeah.
second she's in modern Rome, and then the next you step one foot, she's in ancient Rome, and she's just like, "Okay, never
Hmm.
mind." I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, can you be
Exactly.
quiet and just enjoy?
Right.
and,
Exactly.
and I think it's a lot of it too is like Italy is just also a romantic. It's a romantic country, and I just
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
I don't my parents went there in their honeymoon, and then actually that was the last our last family trip together, and I have beautiful
Hmm.
memories with my family in Italy. It's I think what I want to share is, yeah, my mom always tells me, my sister and I, to pack extra clothes, because you never know, you might lose your luggage on somehow you might lose your luggage, and guess
Yep.
what, that's what happened. We actually lost our luggage.
Oh no.
I had extra clothes. My sister had to. She asked me for extra clothes. I'm like, oh no, we're not getting our luggage until like 3 days after. So you gotta buy
Yeah.
your.
Yeah.
You gotta go shopping. And
Yeah. Right.
speaking of, yeah, Italian clothes, just the quality of Italian shoe fashion in general is just up to par. I mean, it's that they don't say Milan is the fashion capital, one of the fashion capitals of the world for
Hmm.
nothing.
Exactly. And to add on to that, we were there back in, I believe, 2016. My parents, um, and my the only thing my dad wanted to get, right, be like, all right, tour here, there, but the only thing he wanted to come home with was a new sports jacket from Italy. That's the only thing he wanted. He doesn't care about any wine, or he was able to appreciate everything. But the only thing he wanted to go home with was a nice Italian sports jacket that we were able to get. So he was happy about that for sure.
And a good factoid is Milan is has a very highly populated Filipino community. I mean, they
Hmm.
just recently opened a Jollibee near the Duomo. And
Yeah,
I
I heard
remember
about that.
And I remember my friend asking me, "Do you want?" I was like, "I did not come to Milan to eat Jollibee. Where's the? I need a panini right now." The panini Giusto was like right across the
Yeah,
Jollibee. I was like, "That's what I want. I don't want chicken
yeah,
joy. That's what I can get in
no,
the Philippines. I don't even eat chicken joy in New York because it's just overly priced. But I do try to support my Filipino, Jollibee and all the red ribbon here in New
hmm
York."
Oh yeah, without yeah, for sure. I'm the same way. If I have a hunkering of Jollibee, there's definitely one here in New York City as well, and they're opening two more, one in Times Square and one in Grand Central Station. So I'm looking forward to that
That
too.
That's really great. And then now I want to ask you about Greece because that's also another popular
Hmm.
European destination for many travelers, especially the Greek islands. I've been to
Yes.
Greece back in 2000, I believe 2012 or 2013. And one of my
Hmm.
I love Santorini. I love Athens too and the outskirts of Greece, but Santorini has it's just magical up there. Um, what do you recommend for travelers with Greece, especially the Greek islands?
Yeah, the Greek islands are fantastic. They're fabulous. They all have a different, glamour to it. From Athens to Mykonos to Santorini. Um, we have a lot of tours depending on what you want to see out there. If you want to be more historical, or you want to be more or on leisure, seeing the smaller islands. But yeah, but be aware that if you want to go to Greece, the season stops actually by the end of October. So there's not a lot of people that live on the islands. So they don't actually live in some. A lot of people there don't live on the islands year round. So a lot of tours actually stop at the end of October, including us, Exotica. So that's the low season. If you want to learn about, if you want to go to Greece, you have to go through the high season. Um, And Exotica has a lot of different options, ranging again from 10 days to all the way at 30 again. So like talk to your travel advisor and see which tour would be best suited for you and how active you want it to be, because sometimes it could be very active, or sometimes it could be at leisure. So you don't want to go there and thinking that you're going to be having out hanging out by the beach or by the water when um, you're doing something every single day and not be able to actually hang out and relax, and vice versa. You don't want to be on a leisure side where you're wanting it to be more active, to seeing more different things, especially climbing the stairs out there. It's a lot of stairs.
That's okay. I didn't know that about the Greek islands. I didn't know that after October, I guess tourism stops, and I believe probably most of them are from the city in itself. I went to
Yep.
Santorini in August when it was really hot, but I think that's one
Yeah.
of, I'd say between August and October, or I would say May, would be probably
hmm
the best times to go to any of the Greek islands.
I would say so too. Yeah, no, May as well as during the fall season would be great. Right before shoulder season, before the low season starts. Um, those are definitely. Plus, there's less people to go when you're there. But Athens, you can go year round. The city is there; it's open. But if you're planning on going to Santorini and Mykonos, make sure that you go there within the high season, because anything after October, it's just closed down. There's nothing there. I mean, there's the shops are not going to be open as well as the restaurants.
Let's segue into Portugal because that's actually one of the most popular destinations, and it's actually one of the more cheaper destinations in Europe to vacation at. That's been on, that's been on my bucket list since 2003, thanks to Samantha Brown. When she traveled, she used to do her show on Travel Channel, Play for Passport with Samantha Brown, and that's how I fell in love with Portugal. And especially where you're at in New Jersey, there's a huge Portuguese community, and that's where I get my Portuguese tarts. I don't like to get it in New York. I specifically like to get it in Newark, New Jersey, to share a
Yes.
bakery.
Yep, you have to get it from Ironbound. They have a huge population out there in Newark, New Jersey. Um, yeah, I grew up actually in New Jersey, but I live in New York City now too. So I'm a subway right away to Woodside actually.
We're neighbors. I'm in. Oh my
We
gosh,
are.
we should hang out and
Yeah,
talk
for
travel.
sure. Exactly. How can you not? Yeah, no, Portugal is definitely one of the most popular destinations. Kudos to Samantha Brown. She's actually a friend. So, I'll definitely pass that message along that you were inspired to go to Portugal next time I see her. But yeah, Portugal is one of my favorite destinations to go to, as well as one of the more popular ones in the European market. It's so easy. You're right. It's so easy to get to from New York with so much options. We have a lot of tours again out there, from going just to Portugal with starting with Lisbon, going down to go to Porto. If you're religious, you want to go see Fatima also. I know we have a lot of Filipino in the community where they want to do religious travel, whether it be going to Vatican, Rome, as well as in Portugal. There's a lot of options to do that as well with Exotica, ranging from you can go 8 days all the way out to, I don't know, 17 or 18 days, right? You can package that with another city as well as a country.
That's great to hear. And I know you brushed up on Samantha Brown. I'm gonna add another memo that you could send to her. I idolize Samantha Brown. This is kind of I remember saying to my sister and my other friend, Bernard Gorzon. I hope you're listening. He and I are avid fans of Samantha Brown, and I always said to him that I want her job.
Yeah, yeah.
She does an amazing job in her travels as a journalist. As
hmm
I mean, she's so vibrant when she speaks on camera. I'm sure I've watched her also in some of the travel shows that I've been to in the past, as she spoke in and did some lectures as well. So you can pass
Yeah,
that along to her, Jeff.
yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah,
I'd love to have her on this podcast if it doesn't
right.
conflict with her with her job. But
Yeah.
yes, wellness travel is actually trending, and a lot of people I know, a lot of people who I've met always mention to me like, can you add some kind of wellness? Is there a spa around wherever,
Hmm.
in whether it's New York or in Italy? What does Exotica have to offer in terms of wellness travel?
Yeah, no, it depends, right? Like our wellness travel, I'd say this is not our wheelhouse per se. And like when you think of wellness travel, you think of going to Costa Rica, doing a yoga retreat for a couple of days, going through the spa as well as going through, the hot springs. For us, our wellness is more so how active do you actually want to be on your tours, it could be going to Peru and climbing the Machu Picchu, going up to Machu Picchu, hiking it rather than taking the train up there. So that could be an option in terms of wellness. But unfortunately, with wellness, in terms of like the traditional wellness travel that people think about, we just don't have any trips that, but it's a great idea actually. Let me write those down, like, and
Yeah.
I'll tell my superiors or travel curators that this, it could be something that this is something that's trending, especially here in the North American market.
Aside from Egypt, because I know that's probably your favorite.
Hmm.
What are some of Exotica's most popular travel packages as of late?
Ooh, our our tour to Iceland is another really really popular destination that travel advisors book with us. And then aside from that, our Indochina, whether it be Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, those things are packaged together, and those are really really popular as well. Um, South Africa is another one, going to Cape Town and Johannesburg, as well as Kruger National Park. And then in the European market, from Portugal to Iceland to Greece, as well as to Italy. Because you can tell if you go to exotica.com, you can tell which ones are our more popular destinations by the amount of tourists that are there, right?
Yeah, and I think you had like 16 or 17. I'm like, oh yeah, you had me.
Yes.
You had me at hello.
Yeah.
And I even said it, and the best part of it is that it also includes airfare. Not a lot of tour
Yes.
operators include
Hmm.
airfare in their packages, and that's kind of a that's kind of what's great about your tour Exotica, is that it's pretty much
Yep.
everything comes in the package. So viewers,
Exactly.
you got to check it out. What's the website? I'm assuming exotica.com, but where can we
Yes,
reach
it's
you? And
www. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's www.exotica.com. And then for travel advisors, it's exotica.com or sales.exotica.com /US, making sure that you have the US, you have that. If you're in Canada, just put in the country code as well, CAN. So those are definitely some of the best things that you should check out, like, because again, like you said, flights are included to it, as well as the tours, as also the different magical experiences that you can have between yourself, your loved one, or whoever you're traveling with, as well as your family.
before we end, I have two more questions. I'm going to ask you. So, what's next on your bucket list? Where are you off to this year,
Ooh.
2022?
Uh, let's see. For work wise, I'm actually going to be in San Francisco as well for the ASTA Global Convention. So I will see you there, if not beforehand. And then I'm going to be out in Mexico. I think I'm going to be out in some islands in the Caribbean again for conferences. But for my own, and then I know I have to go to Barcelona for because we're headquarters in Barcelona. So I'm lucky enough where they will send me over there to work from the office. For my own personal trip, I want to go to the Philippines for Christmas. I haven't experienced Christmas in the Philippines in such a long time that I think it's something that I want to bring on to, this year or maybe next. Where else do I want to go? Peru. I want to go to Peru as well as the Galapagos as well this year. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes, and we'll see how if it will happen with our work schedules.
And the one thing, Jeff, that I'm excited about when I get to San Francisco, other than I actually want to check out Chase Center and see like how
Hmm.
Warriors fans are.
I see. So we have a Dubs fan.
Well, I actually went to Boston and checked out Game Three, and I'm
Uh-huh.
kind of more of a Celtics fan. Well, I love basketball in general, and
Okay.
I freelance as a journalist, in sports journalist. So I've been covering NBA for almost 6 years. I don't actually have a favorite team, but I love when it's NBA season, especially this year with
Hmm.
the Warriors, with Steph Curry proving that why he's a top, I would say top five NBA player of all time, the way he played
Hmm.
during the finals. But I'm also a Boston fan because in Boston, like their sports fans are just different from everywhere else. New York, LA, Chicago,
Agreed.
they're in another field. And if I dared to wear a Yankees cap, oh boy, they would probably kick me out of the city.
Yeah,
But
right? Yeah.
but the one thing I want to do in San Francisco, which they used to have a lot of in New York, and I remember going
Hmm.
here when I graduated college, is Tad's Steak. They have the one, yeah,
Huh.
in San Francisco by Union Square, and I researched
Uh-huh.
it. That's the only Tad's Steak restaurant they have left in San
Oh,
Francisco, and I
interesting.
believe it's the original one. And steaks there are very affordable. You could get like a filet
Yeah.
mignon with a potato and a drink for probably, I don't know, maybe it's up because of
Yeah.
inflation. But I remember you could get filet mignon for like 18.99 back in like a couple. Before it closed, I think they closed their branches here in New York 3 or 4 years ago. But that was like the only place where
Yeah.
you could buy steak under $30.
Exactly. I remember that location out in Times Square. It's, I believe, on 50th and 7th at
Yes.
that time. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Last question. So, as somebody experienced 11 years and counting, someone experienced in the travel industry, what advice do you have to share with travel advisors and even travelers, especially myself? I could totally use your
Mhm.
wisdom, Jeff.
I would say never stop exploring and learning. I'll break this thing down to twofold. One is for our travelers, learn from other people, from friends, from family. Ask them where they've been. Ask them, what they loved about that. Ask a travel advisor because they would know where to bring you depending on what you want to experience, right? I always say to people, to my friends and family, and even when I was a travel advisor to my clients, get lost in the city. But be responsible when you get lost because the best way to learn about the city is getting lost in the destination, learning about the local cultures, the customs, the food, and the people. One thing that connects us as human beings are similarities between different cultures, and that's one thing that you will learn by going to different places. And watch the travel shows that you see on TV as well as online. I was inspired to go into the travel industry without even knowing it by watching Samantha Brown, Anthony Bourdain, Andrew Zimmern, all those stuff from the Travel Channel back in the day, without even thinking that I will end up in the travel industry. So learn, and that from travel's perspective, if you're a travel advisor wanting to get into the travel industry space as a travel advisor, ask around, like ask your travel advisor friends for help. If you're not familiar with a destination, they'll be more than happy to help you out. If you're not familiar with Asia travel or Africa travel, look for a colleague that is familiar and an expert on that because they'll be more than happy to help you out. There's a lot of clients out there that you're not competing with each other for that particular customer. And then go to the conferences, learn from the industry experts who've been there in your shoes, who when you first started, as well as continue learning. And I started doing this is take workshops and seminars in different industries because you'll learn something from there and bring it back to the travel industry as well. So like it's twofold, but the short version of it is never stop learning and exploring.
Yes, and I agree with you. I haven't stopped learning. I haven't stopped exploring. And yes, get lost. Especially, it's fun to get lost in New York City on those subways.
Exactly.
That's the only way
Yeah.
you know how to get around New York City if you get lost,
Yeah.
especially in the subways. People don't know that specifically why it's colored. It's because each color represents a specific line, and the specific line goes a specific direction.
Exactly. And you never know where you're going to end up, especially if you're in New York City. You might end up find out a small pop-up museum that is in the middle of nowhere just because you ended up getting off the wrong stop. So there's always some little surprises that will enlighten you during your trip.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm going to share a short story before we end our podcast. A friend of mine fell asleep on the 7 train and winded up in Flushing. And then that's when he discovered one of the cheapest places to buy bao. He got up and he was hungry,
amazing.
and then all of a sudden he found a spot where he got duck bao for like a dollar. I think it was like $1.50 or $2.50, and he was just like, whoa,
Yeah.
thank God I fell
Oh, you
asleep.
can never go wrong with that. Yeah, exactly, right? It's the universe manifesting itself that your friend needed some cheap bao, and that is amazing also.
Well, thank you, Jeff, for coming on. It's great. I hope to have you again and for another topic. And thank you
Yes.
for sharing your expertise, not only in your field, but just sharing with us why we should go to Egypt, right?
Yeah, exactly. How can you not go to Egypt? Like I always say, like how were the pyramids built? Aliens. But you never get to experience it until you get there and see the magic for it once you're there.
Thank you. Egypt will be on my bucket list, and it should be on yours too, viewers. So
Exactly.
Jeff Howitt for Exotica, Director of Sales, North Region for Exotica. Thank you for coming on, Jeff.
Thank you so much for having me, and looking forward to another one. We never know.
And thank you to all our viewers, because without your help, this would be impossible. And as the travel world is opening up again, hopefully everybody will pack their bags and travel across the world and possibly get lost in translation. Smart People Travel Wise airs every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 noon Pacific. I'm your host, Tenny Samagi. Catch you next time.
Just like a friend from back home.
This is your Filipino radio experience in Las Vegas. PHLV Radio.